Hello, friends, and welcome finally to your midweek edition of the Kings of Anglia Ipswich Town podcast. I'm your host, Mark Heath, and I'm joined after this long hiatus for various reasons by my two favourite, probably pushing it, kind of Kings. I can take or leave, to be honest. I'm going to start first of all with a man who I know is going to be very happy with the change in season, which is definitely upon us now. It's freezing cold in Heath Towers, but of course we can't turn the heating on, so we're just going to burn furniture. I think we've decided this winter. A man who will love the cold, though, is of course Andy Hutchman. Warren, how are you?
Nice temperature, thank you. Yeah, this is my season. What furniture are you burning first? Just out of interest, what will go on the fire first up?
Probably, I'd say the dining room table, because that doesn't get a lot of use, despite the fact we've paid quite a lot of money for it. It is oak, so I reckon that probably burn quite well.
Need to get a wood burner, mate. That's what we've got. We're in business.
Oh, very economic.
Oh,
very wise. We've got a lovely gas fire, but obviously we can't really turn that on either this winter, unless we want to sell a kidney or something to fund it. But you must be loving this, actually. The seasons have definitely changed.
Yes, they have.
Excellent, good analysis from Michael Fish there. Moving on to your partner in crime, less hairy, all over his body, Stuart Watson.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
How are you enjoying the cold?
Well, you lose the most heat through your head, so I do struggle at this time of year.
That's
I hate
true.
it. I hate the winter. I'll be honest.
This is not winter, lads. Come on, let's be real here. It's not like frosting over, is it? It's just a slight chill in the air. Let's crack on.
It's starting to get dark earlier. It's starting to feel colder. I don't like it. It makes me feel sad.
For the last however many months, I haven't even had to think about what I'm wearing when I get up. I just throw on a pair of shorts, off you go. Now, there's a chill in the air when you walk outside, take the dog for a walk. It's not nice at all. I'm not meant for cold weather climates, Hutchie, unlike you. Right then, friends, before we get going today, today's show is all going to be about big questions, really. Lots of questions to discuss. Questions from yourself, the KOA Army, and also my questions for Stu. Questions about Plymouth, questions about who replaces Wes Burns. Lots to discuss. But first of all, I want to start with an apology. Sorry, friends, it's been more than a week since we last spoke to you. Obviously, things have been happening, bank holidays, funerals, games, which have meant we haven't been able to sit down and get together in this virtual chat room as we'd like to. And also, a big thank you, friends, because for the second straight year, the Kings of Anglia has been shortlisted, nominated in the Best EFL podcast category at the Football Content Awards, which is tremendous. And that's entirely down to you because it's voted for by listeners and viewers. So a massive, massive thank you for that. And also, of course, young Roscoe earning the title of Prospect has been recognised among the best creators in women's football in that category, which is even better and fantastic. So again, thank you for everyone who has voted for us thus far. If you'd like to vote for us to win, and let's face it, we'd love to win it now, wouldn't we, boys? We'd love it if we beat them all now.
We'd love it if we beat them. Darragh McAntony and your Hard Truth podcast.
Under the cosh, exactly.
I mean, that one's quite good, but the other ones, this isn't the nonsense one with the scuba diving podcast or the bunkered lads. This is proper bloody business. So thank bunkered. You. Yeah, thank you everyone, and I'd love it if we beat them.
Absolutely, love it. There's 3 ways you can vote for us, which is all over Twitter. We'll share it on Facebook as well. You can vote on Twitter by tweeting the correct terms in the right order with the correct hashtags, which you can simply cut and paste from us. You can vote on their voting page, which we'll share the link to, and you can also vote on Instagram. So if you enjoy the show, use all 3, friends. Give us three maximum votes. Stu, how are you feeling about it? It's only right, isn't it, that a podcast that features you should be among the best in the country?
Whatever.
There we go.
In all seriousness, it's nice, isn't it? It strokes our very fragile egos from time to time. We're not going to lie; it's put a smile on our face when we get these little nominations, and we've been the bridesmaids so far. Make us the winners, please.
Exactly. Right then, that's enough talking of awards. Let's talk about games, boys. There's been 2 games since we last spoke, and we're not going to sit here and wang on in depth about games that happened days ago. If you want the in-depth stuff, that's all online. You can read what the boys made of it. You can read ratings. You can read reaction. You can watch video reaction too from the game day posse and also the boys from both games. That's all there if you want to go back and consume that. But by way of mentioning and rounding up those 2 games we've had since we last spoke, boys, I want to invite you both to bring up 3 talking points around those games so we can cover it and tick that box. I'm going to start with you, Andy, because I just fancy it today. Give me your first talking point from the draw at Sheffield Wednesday and the win over Arsenal's children.
My first talking point is that I feel exactly the same about this Ipswich Town team after these 2 games as I did before it. And by that, I mean that I'm confident they're going to be right there. I'm confident that this team has changed, that the club has changed. They were good value for what they ultimately got at Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously, the way that it came about, frustrations. Very, very professional, spotting Arsenal's youngsters aside when they've made
hard work.
Hard work.
Yeah.
I was going to say made mincemeat. That's not the expression.
That's the wrong
anyway,
expression.
That's the wrong expression. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean. They made hard work of that in previous years. So it's all changed. There's backbone to this. There's some serious potential for a really good season here, but it's not going to be easy. There's no cakewalk to be had here, and I still think Ipswich need to improve if they're going to be challenging seriously on the final day, or hopefully even before, for automatic promotion. But I've come out of the 2 games feeling exactly how I felt going into them, which actually I would say is probably quite a good thing given what's happened in the past. So that's my first takeaway.
Any thoughts on that, Stewie, before you bring us your first takeaway?
Yeah, I guess if you look at it really objectively, it's another 2 ticks in the progress box. Ipswich had lost to Arsenal under-21s twice in previous seasons. This year they saw out an ultimately pretty comfortable and professional win against them in week. Is that because Ipswich are better, or is that because Arsenal was a younger, lesser team? Might have been an element of that, but even so, it's still another step in the right direction. Sheffield Wednesday, although it was disappointing the way it finished, you have to remember that as recently as, I think it was the end of January, when Ipswich went to Hillsborough and lost 1-0, but very comfortably 1-0, could have been more. So it's a point extra than they got in the corresponding fixture last season. There's several points up if you go like for like on fixtures last season. I would argue that this is a better Sheffield Wednesday squad. So for Ipswich to have closed that gap so significantly in the space of, I think we forget how short a time Kieran McKenna's been here. It's less than a year. It's night and day from, you go back to, November time with that defeat at Charlton. And, you think sometimes we have to remember how much has changed in such a short space of time. Yes, there is still things to work on, and I'm sure they will be. Give it another 4-5 months until these corresponding fixtures come round again, and hopefully Ipswich have gone to another level. But ultimately progress.
Excellent. What's your first takeaway?
The tactical switch at Sheffield Wednesday intrigued me. Kieran McKenna having spoken so much pre-match about, yes, we're respectful of Sheffield Wednesday. Clearly, they're a very strong squad, strong team that's going to be up there, but we believe in our principles and what we do, and we'll go there to make it our game. And then he went up there and they kind of went away from their game, really. Ipswich have been a possession-based team that want a press high, boss possession, and they changed that, really. And he admitted as much afterwards. He said, look, we came here and we wanted to defend. We wanted to go into a bit more of a low block, draw Sheffield Wednesday in, hit them on the counter-attack. He'd obviously come up with a bit of one of these bespoke game plans that he comes up with from time to time, with Caden Jackson playing wide left now. I think Andy's described him as a bit of a Swiss Army knife, someone who's kind of plays in different roles for different games. We've seen him right wing back. We've seen him as a central striker. We saw him sort of wide left on this occasion. I just thought it was quite interesting that Ipswich kind of changed their principles for this game. My instinct when we saw that team sheet was, is he overthinking this one? Do you just play your bet? You're a team that's in decent form. You're unbeaten. Just go there and do, as he said, believe in your best players for the biggest games, which for me, we've talked about, Andy's talked about a strongest 11 is starting to emerge, which would have been probably the front three of Harness, Chaplin and Ladapo. But he went away from it. And then we're sort of talking to each other going, are we sure about this team? And then they go 2-0 up. And you'd have to say that the game plan, everything that they planned for was going exactly how they wanted it. 2-0 up with 20 minutes to go. Just couldn't see it out, which was the frustrating thing. But the tactical switch was very interesting, I thought.
I decided I just need to take a back seat here, boys, rather than get involved in these brief lulls between your thoughts. Why don't you just play ping pong? So, Hutchie, any thoughts on Stewie's, and then on you go, and just keep it going until you've finished your talking points, and I'll be quiet.
Okay, see you in a bit.
Yeah,
with Sheffield Wednesday, I'd have been interested to see how that game played out if they didn't score after 4 minutes, or if Barry Bannon had scored from the halfway line. But score an early goal and you can change a game. You can dominate a game. I'd be interested to see how the tweaks that they made would have played out in a game that was 0-0 heading towards halftime and things like that. But you can't grumble at going 2-0 up. I've got another one. I was going to flip to the Arsenal game. But seeing as we're talking about Sheffield Wednesday, I'll talk about the crowd at Hillsborough, and it's kind of a reminder, I think, of how lucky Ipswich are with the crowd that they've got. I think yesterday it came out that there's going to be an FA investigation into what went on in the crowd at Hillsborough. I think there were things raining onto the pitch from three sides of the ground. We've already seen Christian Walton hit by something on the head at Burton earlier in the season as well. And I think in the main, Ipswich is just very lucky with the crowd that they've got. Because as well as all of that, when Wednesday went 2-0 down, which was before the hour mark, pretty much, like so many fans were heading to the exits, weren't they, Stuart? It's like a reminder. I don't think that would happen at Ipswich. Ipswich have been in that place before. Where frustrations are boiling up and things like that. But right now things are going really. It's just a reminder of how nicely things are going at the moment, and how good the atmosphere is around everything to do with the club.
Takes a lot to get an Ipswich Town crowd angry. We've seen that. I would say their tolerance levels are pretty high. You could flip that as to a negative and say it's a bit of a sleepy Suffolk nicey mentality, and should a team really have been applauded on their way to relegation? But I know which I would prefer out of those two scenarios, a more tolerant crowd, or one that quickly turns and can become a negative for their team. That added to the frustration last weekend because they'd done the job. They turned that crowd big time, as you say. So many of them straight for the exits, even though there was 20 minutes to go. Chucking stuff on the pitch. It was quite toxic, wasn't it? What I would say, if we're on the theme of Ipswich crowds, Tuesday night was a bit of a funny one, wasn't it? And the Freddie Ladapo kind of reaction. Ipswich fans might not get angry at times, but it can get a little bit. It was a bit sarcastic, wasn't it? It's hard to interpret, and I'm sure everybody's intentions were different with the types of chants that were coming towards Freddie Ladapo. I'm sure that the vast majority meant it as an act of encouragement for a striker that is still to get off the mark with his first league goal. I thought he was playing okay, actually. He'd assisted the first goal with a flick on. He was doing his usual role for the team. Yes, some chances came and went. I wouldn't say all of them were gilt-edged, far from it. But it started a sort of chance of Freddie Ladapo, and I think trying to sort of G him up and show there was a bit of support, but that sort of tipped into a little bit patronising, almost borderline mocking a little bit. I'm not sure how he knew how to take it when he did ultimately score. it was a kind of a wry smile and a sheepish wave to the fans behind that goal. But yeah, very stark contrast between the anger that we saw at Hillsborough last weekend and perhaps the way an Ipswich crowd can change on Tuesday night.
My reading of that is that it all started in the right intentions, because it just kind of got a bit carried away, and I think that was probably because the crowd was so small and there wasn't.
And it wasn't the most engaging of games as well.
It really wasn't.
There's no edge on the game. Even there's no knockout situation. It's Arsenal under-21s. All our minds were starting to drift, and it was probably a case of the crowd just amusing themselves as much as anything. So yeah, you're right. We don't need to make a huge thing out of this, but it's an interesting talking point.
My next point was this actually about the strength of character that Ladapo showed during that, because I think a lot of players would have handled that very differently. But he kept playing through it, and he scored a really nice goal in the end, left foot finish, and handled that really well. Good strength of character, and you're right. He played okay. Like watching back, like some like longer version of some highlights. There's some really nice touches in there from him. I know he's obviously a bit of a focus at the moment, because you want your striker scoring goals. He's not scored one in the league, but he's definitely contributing. But until you're scoring goals really regularly as a striker, you're gonna have a certain level of scrutiny, aren't you? But we covered Ladapo. So if one more on the trophy, then they can win that. They really, really can win that. Smile, Stu. They can win that, and that's all I've got to say about that.
Of course they can. Look at that squad. Look at the amount of changes they can make to their team, and the strength of team that can go out. When Kieran McKenna was saying about they went out of the Carabao Cup to Colchester and that's not our priority, and I think that triggered a bit of Ipswich Town insecurity amongst fans. That here we go again, always losing in the cup. We hear this every year. And then they've named two really strong teams in these two trophy games so far: 6-0 against Northampton, 2-0 against Arsenal. Absolutely no reason why they can't go all the way to Wembley in this competition. Sheffield Wednesday have probably got, in terms of depth of squad, probably the only ones that can match Ipswich, I would say, in terms of two players for every position. They lost to Burton with a ridiculously strong team. If you look at who they played, people like Gregory and Wilkes, and you can go through them all. I think Darren Moore might be under a bit of pressure there, given everything that's going on, which again just adds to that maybe a little bit of missed opportunity vibes from last weekend. But yeah, of course they can go all the way. No reason why not.
That would be an incredible final. Ipswich and Sheffield Wednesday, the northern representatives against the southern representatives. That would be full. Completely full.
Sunderland,
Wembley.
Portsmouth had sort of 80,000+, didn't it, for a final? Recently.
That's what you want. Two big teams. Ipswich, Portsmouth in the semis. I think if the Cowleys will take that very seriously, the further they get in that, they'll fancy a little bit of that. I think there could be some real excitement down the road in the trophy. Get on board now, everyone. It's going to be magic.
I think the two can go hand in hand. People have got promoted and gone all the way in the trophy. I'm always of the camp that it can aid positive momentum rather than derail what you're trying to do in the league. Could be a nice positive distraction. It's a chance to keep this big squad happy as well. At the moment, these fringe players know that there's always going to be a game a week or two away that they're going to get some action in. Once you go out of all of the cups, it's very difficult to kind of keep everybody as buoyed and as happy and as positive on board. I don't think, clearly there's a good team spirit here, and clearly some big characters like Sam Morsey and Richard Keogh, I think will ensure that everyone's nice and positive and on board for the bigger picture. But just to have those extra games helps with that for sure.
just look at Ladapa. If it wasn't for this competition, he wouldn't have scored. He'd have had nothing on the score sheet. And I know in the scheme of things, we want him scoring winners at Hillsborough, and we want to see him score in front of you say the nation, the members of the nation that decide to watch Plymouth v Ipswich at lunchtime on a Sunday. You want to see him doing that, but get him scoring goals, and that can only be a good thing. I love Connor Chaplin's attitude about this competition. He's a member of the spine, the core of players that you'd think would potentially be rested from those games, but he really wants to play in them. He did play on Tuesday night, and he's spoken really well in the past about just how much he wants to get to and play at Wembley.
Yeah, well, we're talking about fans, Ipswich fans, gagging to get to Wembley. One of the, what are we down to, 4 or 5 clubs that have not played at the new Wembley now amongst the 92. Players are gagging. Don't forget that talk about something to put on your CV when you retire and tell the grandkids. It's you don't go, I remember when we finished 5th one season or whatever. You go, I played at Wembley. That's the first thing that you'd go to. And this is, for some of these players, this will be their best ever chance at bar a playoff final. So, yeah, it's Wembley, isn't it? So, fingers crossed this year is, I think once they get through the group, which they've got sort of pretty much 1 foot there now, 1 more point will do it, a draw against Cambridge. And then you're into the last 32. And then that's just getting tantalisingly close then, isn't it?
Is that it? Are those your talking points done? I love that. Just sitting back, listening to you boys having a conversation. That verbal tennis match was, of course, our little tribute to Roger Federer, who retires tomorrow. What a legendary player he is, boys. When we inevitably do win the Pizza Trophy, beating Sheffield Wednesday at Wembley, boys, do we get a Europa spot for that? We get in the Conference League? What's happening there?
They should pit they should invent a competition for that. Like pick up all the tin pot competitions from around Europe,
yes.
and then so Ipswich go into the hat with like a team from the 3rd division in France, Italy, Germany, and
call it the McDonald's Burger Bowl or something like that.
Yeah,
that'd be great. We'd get to go off. We'd have to look up on the map where some of these sort of places are in Eastern Europe that we're heading off to because they've won their equivalent of the trophy.
That would be sensational fun, boys. What a time that would be.
It'd be that Ipswich would be such a big fish in that if they because like you'd get like some 3rd division team from Italy. Let's say who might be Piacenza.
Oh yeah.
That's only the 1981 UEFA Cup winners coming to Piacenza this week.
That would be amazing. Who can we put this forward to?
Why don't we promote it? Why don't we do it? Like promote it as like
make it
we can make it like a pre-season tournament. I'm going to find some like fringy cup tournaments that are kicking about Europe. Yeah, and we'll put a proposal together for UEFA.
We'll make it happen. Absolutely,
and then just do it ourselves.
The power of KOA. We'll make it happen. Get behind us, people. Right, friends. I enjoyed that. That's the games covered. Then now let's really dive deeply into the big questions section of this podcast. First up, friends, your questions in what we like to call, and you like to call the mailbag spot, which of course can only be kicked off in one way, and that's with the voice of a generation, the songbird that is Andy Hutch-Hogan Warren, warming up those vocal cords. On you go.
Mailbag. It's time for Mark, Candy, and Stu to dip into the mailbag.
Time-honoured question, boys. Football or non-football to begin with. We've got a decent mix, I would say, today. Maybe even leaning towards the football. Should we go non-football to start with?
Always non-football.
Always non-football. And this one, friend, is right in your bloody wheelhouse, which is why I've picked it out. Richard Jackson says he wants some hard-hitting journalism from us. That's what we do. That's what we're all about here. So he wants to know what are the top 3 service stations.
Who wants to go first? I've got my 3.
You've got 3, have you?
Yeah.
Gloucester.
You love Gloucester, don't you?
I love Gloucester, yeah.
Why?
Well, it's my halfway stop on the way down to Cornwall, and it's kind of like it's just nice. Beaconsfield.
That's the best. Beaconsfield is the champion. That's the king.
Yeah,
The king.
don't get to go there very often.
Why is that? Why is it champion? Why is it the champion?
Let me just tell you. So let me get the list up of the things that it's got, Mark. If I told you it's got a Nando's,
wow,
in it, it's got a Weatherspoons, it's got a Pizza Express. It will do you. Yeah, it will do you that. It will do you. There's a little curry place. It's got all your standards. It's got your. It will do you like you can go to WH Smith's. Sure. Yes, it's got McDonald's, and also it's got. It will do you a La Beast. It's got everything. It's got everything. It's got everything your heart could desire.
Superb. I like the sound of it. Hopefully one day I get to go.
We can only hope that you get to experience that one time in your life. I feel sad for you. If there's a hotel there, you could go and stay. You could go and stay there for the weekend. There's a little area out the back. I think there's a little grassy area.
I could do a little travel review, couldn't I? Beaconsfield services. Why not?
48 hours of Beaconsfield services.
So what have we've got Beaconsfield, we've got Gloucester. Give us some more.
T-Bay in Cumbria is quite nice.
T-Bay?
Yeah, not T-Bag. T-Bay.
No.
I know. I saw your little mind.
Yeah, you did.
Working its way. T-Bay. Similar vibes to Gloucester. A little less chutney.
Has it got a grassy roof?
I don't think it's got. Don't think it's got the grassy roof. It's got a nice outside area and like some home cooked food. But I'm not convinced you're getting the wide range of chutney that is on offer at Gloucester. Very nice sausages at Gloucester, though. I'll do a lovely morning. Lovely morning
sort of
sausage.
lake / pond out the back. Good. Yeah. I'll be honest, they're all quite depressing at 8-9 o'clock on a Saturday night. Normally that's kind of Ferry Bridge for us is kind of where we assess our life choices.
Yeah, Blythe.
Oh yeah, Blythe.
It's a disgusting place. It's like even the massage chair was broken the last time we went there.
Have you ever actually used one of those massage chairs?
Oh yeah.
Really?
They're a favourite of Andy's.
Oh, they?
I've been it. Yeah.
He encouraged me to try one once. I enjoyed it right up until the moment. I don't know. You know these massage chairs, the ones we're talking about, the leather black chairs that you pump a few pound coins into. Yeah. And it's quite nice, but they're quite aggressive. And it finishes with a bit of a surprising crescendo. You know, there's basically sort of bits jabbing into your ribs and your back. You know where this is going, but you basically quite aggressively sort of goes into your back passage area.
It's quite invasive. I
didn't like it. I question why Andy uses them all the time.
Is a surprising crescendo the same as a happy ending? Is that different?
Well, maybe if you're that way inclined.
That's what you get for a pound coin in a service station. But
good lord, that took a turn. Right, I think we've answered that one. Then let's do.
Donington's all right as well.
Donington,
anyway, carry on. Yeah, it's
superb. Harvey Davis, Sweet Welsh Prince, friend of the show, number 4. It's clear to see we've got a large squad. Some are going to get more game time than others. My question is this: who out of the current group could you see moving out on loan in January? My guess, he says, would be Kyle Edwards. What are you saying, Hutchie?
It's quite a gear change, isn't it, from the massage chairs to this? But game heads back in the football. Edwards is the obvious one if you look up and down the squad. But he does offer something a bit different. So if they can get him playing, I'd hope he'd still be around. But the one I would put forward, if there's a scenario where Ipswich are talking about going out and buying another striker in January, which there might be, I'm sure we will discuss that over the next few months, whether they need to do that or not. Could one of them go out? Could one of the existing ones go out on loan? If, for example, a Habmade doesn't, and I think they've been quite impressed with what they've seen from him so far. So this is in no way suggestion that he should be heading in this direction. But if they go out and invest in another top end striker to come in and be the the central figure. Does the slightly more project striker then go out on loan and play for the second half of the season? He can't though, can he? He'd have to go back to Burton because he's already played for Burton. But he could go back to Burton. You never know. So I would be surprised if anyone really went out of that squad. But Edwards would be the obvious one.
Depends on what happens with the cups as well. If they go straight out the FA, if they go out the FA Cup early doors, if the Pizza Trophy comes to an end, if those games go, then that obviously makes trimming the squad a bigger priority. World Cup will have been and gone by then, so the Wes Burns factor has gone, and so I can see the logic behind a Kyle Edwards' potential departure. I would think they'd want to stay as tooled up as possible for the run-in and not leave themselves potentially exposed. Someone like Cameron Humphreys would be an obvious one for me now, with Don Ball sort of getting back up to speed. I thought again on Tuesday night he looked very much at home in senior football. Didn't look like a kid playing in that team at all. Ipswich will have Evans, Morsey, Ball. Kamara will hopefully be fit and up to speed by then. So maybe Humphreys a well-selected loan, possibly.
I can't get the image of you on a aggressively vibrating chair.
It's horrible because it lulls you into a sense of calm. Obviously, you're sort of your eyes shut. It's rolling up and down either side of your. I can visualize it now. My whole body is in a relaxed state, vulnerable, and then at the end, invasive is the only word.
Something for the weekend, sir. At the
end, yeah. Have that.
Superb. Oh dear. We need to get video of this, or maybe we don't actually, thinking about it.
I don't think you do. I'll be honest, I don't think that needs to be happening.
Right, I shall try and wipe this from my mind. Christopher Day, you answer this, Stewie. You get to have a week where you're the only person on the planet. That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? What would you do with this time? He says, brackets, all buildings and cars, etc. unlocked, but everything goes back to normal as soon as the 7 days are over. So what are you doing, Stuart? You're the only person left on the planet, a kind of I Am Legend style scenario. You can do anything, go anywhere, but obviously there are going to be limits. What are you doing?
That's a great question. It doesn't matter that everything goes back to normal afterwards, because I assume nobody knows.
Exactly. I think you basically
the one that was
7 days of the purge, if you like.
Getting abroad's going to be an issue, isn't it? Because you'd have to fly yourself. I know all vehicles
that would be dangerous.
Open.
Yeah.
So I think I'm probably going to stick to the British Isles.
Yeah.
Just go about in my car. You could just snoop anywhere, couldn't you? Where would you go?
I'd go and have a look inside number 10, probably.
Yeah. Have a little nosy about in there.
The corridors of power. Hutchie, where would you go?
I'd quite like to go and do some cooking in some really nice kitchens.
Oh yeah,
with some really nice ingredients. Just make myself some really nice food in some nice places.
Head off to restaurant Gordon Ramsay, 3 Michelin star. Get yourself in there.
Get a table, wouldn't you?
You would.
Yeah, I'd go and do that.
Go and have a kick about Wembley, couldn't you?
Oh, that's a great shout.
You could score a goal at Wembley. You could go to all the stadiums and score a goal. I might try and drive an underground train, you know.
Yeah. I've also just thought what a sad answer that is if the world is our oyster and we decide to drive to all 92 football grounds. Oh, I kicked the ball in the goal.
I reckon they'd let you do that,
time.
Mate. They'd let, if you said I'm going to drive to all the 92 football grounds and just want to kick the ball in the goal, I reckon you could do that now. I don't think it needs everyone to be wiped off the planet to do that.
Is there any part of it you'll be tempted to try and travel abroad, either by boat, plane, or wherever?
Ferry would be my only. I'd probably go and have a little practice and try and do the Isle of Wight ferry. And if I can do that, then maybe we could do the Channel. Could you do the Channel Tunnel? I might do that.
Surely that's just a stop and go thing, isn't it? Just get in there and just off you go.
Well, I'll go do the London Underground. Do that, and if that's fine, which it will be, go and jump on the Channel Tunnel and just go. Don't know why I'm going to Paris but yeah, why not?
It'd be nice. I mean, I do really like this idea. I'm a person who very much enjoys my own company, so being the only person on the planet for 7 days, I'd I'd really enjoy that. Although I would be tempted to try and get further afield, I think, and see things that I otherwise maybe wouldn't see if people were around. Right then, what should we do next? Should we go back to football? Matt Thomas, Fighty Matt, friend of the show, number 7, I think he is. What do you have to say, Andy, to the ITFC dementors that seem to seize on any negativity as if through habit, instead of enjoying a rare positive spell from the last 20 years? What would you say to these I love the word dementor, by the way.
They're the things from Harry Potter, aren't they?
Never seen or read Harry Potter. It's for children.
What?
There's some Harry Potter dementor action going on. I don't want to tell other people what to do. Just do what you want. Like, as long as you're not hurting anyone. If you want to let football get you a bit angry and negative, do that. But probably don't do it this season, ideally, because it is a bit more positive. But yeah,
I would say I understand. The cynicism is so deep rooted in Ipswich fans. I would say it's not done out of. I don't know. It's not done out of a desire. It's done as a kind of an emotional barrier. It's a bit like if I convince myself that it's all going to go wrong, or it's just protecting myself. I want to believe, but I've been hurt so many times before. That's the way I've always kind of looked at it, and so it's the onus is on Ipswich to kind of sweep away any of those lingering doubts, that little devil on the shoulder that keeps telling you that it's Ipswich, it's all going to go wrong, and so it's up to Ipswich to kill that off, and they're doing a good job of it so far. Hopefully,
it's exactly that, isn't it? Self-preservation. There's I remember reading. I think it was Simon Barnes, one of the great sports writers, once said that he had a theory that the football team you support is largely kind of a reflection of your personality, and kind of what you're willing to put yourself through. Obviously, a lot of it is by location, but I guess that would explain things like glory supporters, things like that. There was something in it. I can't remember. He put it much more eloquently than I've just done. When I remember reading it at the time, thinking that is a theory. Right then, Hutchie, one for you. Tom Agate. You've already guaranteed discussion around this. Something small but very Andy Warren wheelhouse. Does anyone else think the gap between the player name and number is too big? Numbers are far too low down, and it's a hill I'm willing to die on. Hutchie.
Yes, they are too big, but there's a reason for that, and I've bought a little prop to show you the reason
super.
for that. Here is an Ipswich Town home shirt.
Yeah,
you'll notice some sewing here.
It's quite a big
seam.
Panel. Yeah.
You can't print on that because the letters would come off because it's not flat, so you can't print a name where it would normally go. And that is a fact. Now, this next bit is quite subjective because I think the reason why the gap... This is really boring, isn't it? I think the reason why the gap between the name and the number is too big is because they printed those shirts in pre-season with only numbers on them, taking into account that they'd have to print the name lower due to the panel thing, and then because they only wore numbers in pre-season, they didn't have names, then the names have been added after. Now, I think maybe the gap might be a bit smaller on Ghassan Hadney's shirt, for example, because it was printed fresh potentially. But that's my theory behind that. But yes, the gaps between the name and the number are too big.
Stu looks so bored.
I mean, look, I would lie. I'd be lying to you if I told you I hadn't noticed it and it hadn't offered me a level of irritation. But there is a reason.
It's because of that running towards adversity thing printed on the inside of the collar that kind of insert that bit kind of gets sewn in separately, right? Is that?
Well, if you look at it, it might be that is on the it is on that bit. So
I would assume they kind of create that little semicircle bit with the stars and that separately, and then it kind of gets sewn into the rest. I don't know. I'm still thinking about you having not. You honestly said you've never seen like a minute of a Harry Potter film.
Why would I watch it for children? Why would I watch it? It's like the Lord of the Rings.
The Lord of the Rings is for children as well.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And this is the man that berates Andy Warren for having not seen sort of cultural.
I'm talking classic films here. Back to the Future, far superior to any Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings film.
Wow.
I don't even need to watch a minute of either to know that. There you go, friends. That's what I'm saying. Barn Yee, Stewie wants to know, I doubt there's many, but which Mick McCarthy players do you think would suit our current liquid football style well? Webster, he says, is the only one that came to my mind.
Mick McCarthy players.
J. Emmanuel Thomas, obviously.
You'd probably take a Cresswell or a Mings to compete down that left side, wouldn't you? Some good for all the talk about mixed teams. There was always some good play. Waghorn would probably play in one of those a prime Waghorn in one of those number 10 positions. He's got that sort of versatility that could play as a 9 or as a 10 or a bit wider if you needed him to. I think he'd have the work rate. Who else would you take, Andy?
I've got 7 players written down here.
Brian Fraser.
I don't know I did think about Fraser. I don't know about him. Webster, obviously, you've said Cresswell and Mings as a left-sided centre-back in the 3 would be perfect. And I think actually Yoda Knudsen would have been a pretty good left-sided centre-back in a 3. Daryl Murphy would be an excellent striker in any team. The Daryl Murphy of 2014-15 would fit in any team. Tom Lawrence would be perfect as a number 10, and I think Johnny Williams would find a home potentially as a little live wire 10 potentially. There was some good players in there. Waghorn's a good shout. I didn't have him written down. I think I just stopped looking at the squads when I got to Mick's final season. I just thought, no. But yeah, Waghorn. Yeah, Waghorn would definitely be a good fit.
Like it. There's some good names there, actually, aren't there? Right. On a similar tip, Stewie, Martin wants to know if you could buy any player from another League One club to slot straight into our team, who would it be and whose place would they take?
I'd always try and find a way to get Barry Bannon in because I think for my money, he's the best player in the league still. The difficulty, of course, is that's an area of real strength in the Ipswich team at the moment with Morsey and Evans. Could you play Bannon in? I'd probably, if I had to take anyone out to accommodate Bannon, I'd probably play him in that left-sided number 10 role instead of Marcus Harness at the moment. Would probably be a change that I'd make there. Who else is there? I'm really intrigued to see this Mehmeti at Wickham. I haven't seen him play yet, but there's a lot of hype about him. He's a number 10, versatile number 10 that you speak to anyone that watches Wickham and they'll tell you he's a young Albanian, exciting attacker destined for bigger and better things. So looking forward to seeing him. Andy?
I've kind of targeted the same position that you have there. There's that, and then there's the central strike. I've always really liked Josh Windass. He's got a bit more niggle about him than a lot of Ipswich players. I'm not entirely convinced he'd be quite what McKenna is after, but I think Josh Windass could be a good player for Ipswich there. I do like Johnson Clark-Harris as a striker, and that's a position we're looking at.
Connor Bradley was very good for Bolton on the opening day. I know he's on loan from Liverpool, but he's someone in the opening weeks that's left a mark on my mind. He would be the right sider. We're talking a lot about the sort of the Burns backup options at the moment. Liked him. He was good.
But like last week, I put together some North and South League One All-Star teams in response to Todd Bowley's suggestion of an All-Star game. And I went back to those this morning when I knew we were talking about this question. And I went up and down them, and there actually really weren't that many players that I would be fighting to get into the Ipswich team. Like, he's not played yet this season, but as you know, Stu, I'm a big fan of Connor Grant at Plymouth on the left side. But would I put him in over Leif Davis? No. I really like Cam Brannigan at Oxford. Would I be fighting to get him into the Ipswich midfield? Probably not. Always really like Colby Bishop up top. He'd be one I'd maybe consider. Connor Hurrihan is a player I've always really liked, but actually I'm quite taken by Morsey and Evans. And then at the back, big Ricardo Santos, Michael Ihikwe, 2 good defenders. But I think Ipswich have got a way of playing defensively, and players in there that are doing it really well. So there aren't, and you have to remember that Ipswich's shopping market is largely they've been largely trying to buy players from higher levels, haven't they? There aren't many League One players that I would be on a hill dying for to get them into the Ipswich squad. I like the squad they've put together here.
We know, obviously, he's not with us today, the big porker. He's going to be bringing you another, my favourite Town 11, by the way, this weekend. We know which player he wants, don't we, Hutchie, from League One?
Joe Pigott?
Well, yeah, but also Michael Nottingham.
Yes.
That's who he'd sign.
Yeah, he does like Michael Nottingham.
And make him a midfielder. All right. Right then, a couple more questions, friends. One more from Dan on team selection. Dan wants to know, Stewie, what does Don Ball need to do to get a league start? It's hard to break up the Evans-Morsey partnership, but I do think he's better suited for some games.
I think I said in pre-season that I thought there might be a moment where the temptation to get all three of them in the team might arise, but McKenna seems very set on the double pivot. So for now, Don Ball is waiting for either Lee Evans or Sam Morsey to get injured or suspended. I thought, again, he came on in defence, didn't he, the other week when Burgess got injured, showed his experience there. Thought in midweek he was excellent, goal, assist. He's I suppose he's different to both Evans and Morsey. He hasn't got the same range of passing as Evans. He hasn't got the same forward thrust as Morsey, but he can break up plays. He's tenacious. He can play a forward pass. I just think at the moment he's part of a strong squad who will get his chance at some point. It's a long season, and he strikes me character-wise as someone who will be a positive influence when he's out the team, someone who will keep himself ready so that he can hit the ground running when that chance comes. But I can't see him going away from those two number 10s at the moment. I guess you could argue that Morsey would then push forward a little bit more into, given that he's kind of, the shackles have come off him and he's being urged to get into the box a little bit more, that you could push Morsey that little bit further forward into the 10 position if need be. But I think he's just going to have to bide his time at the moment.
Any thoughts,
Yeah.
Hutchie?
In short, at the moment, I think he'll need an injury or a suspension to one of those two to get a league start. But he's still going to be a very important player to this team and this squad. He's shown his qualities already, but at the moment, it's all functioning pretty nice. I wouldn't be reshaping things just to try and get them all in the team. If I'm honest, it wouldn't be what I'd do.
Right then, final question of this week, because it's my favourite question. I'm going to keep a couple up my sleeve for the Plymouth chat because they're kind of Plymouth related, and there is one very obvious question we have to tackle around that. But Tom Baines, bearded whiskey drinker, often appears on Fan Social, wants to know, question of the week for me, if you had to fight one of the ITFC squad in a phone box, who would you pick? I've got very definite thoughts about this, boys. Shall I kick off?
Question of the week, and then the word fight came up quite quickly.
I am a very simple animal.
Before you go, I think you should go first, Mark, if you've got real... But why are you fighting in a phone box? Like, what is that just... What's the aim? Why is that the venue?
There is actually now a promotion that does fights in phone boxes. It's Eastern European promotion.
Is it? Of course.
Is it?
So there are these scraps happening. I think you can find clips of it on Twitter if you look hard enough. And for me, it's quite a simple answer, actually. Normally in a fight, size is an advantage. In a phone box, it's a disadvantage. You want to fight, I would say, the biggest possible player at Ipswich Town in a phone box. I don't know who the tallest player is. Is it Walton? Who's the tallest player at Town?
Yeah,
he's probably got the longest reach, isn't he? Sort of long arms, and
exactly.
He's going to struggle to.
If he's in a phone box, he's in trouble. He can't unwind those long levers to strike, whereas you are already inside and go to work tuning up the body. Whereas the person I'd least like to fight is probably the smallest player at Town, our very own muscle hamster, Connor Chaplin, because he's small, he's powerful, and in that scenario, I think it'd be
like a
like
little
fighting
Tasmanian devil.
exactly that. Yeah, that's how it would be. It would be like that kind of. He'd be an absolute nightmare to fight in a phone box, I'd imagine. Probably not averse to fighting a bit dirty as well. Might have a little chew on your ear or something. So that's what I'd say. I'd go the biggest possible player. So either Walton or Burgess is who I'd take out. Tune up the body, no problem. Light work.
I've come at this a little bit differently.
Yeah,
I'm going to try and talk my way out of this, and
okay.
so therefore I've picked people on personality a little bit more. I think Luke Wolfenden, he'd get in there and go, come on, Luke, you can't be bothered to fight, can you? And he'd go, yeah, no, it's fine. We'll use the phone box to call for a takeaway or something, and we'll just chill out.
I get the impression
sounds
Wolfenden,
nice.
he might be up for some crank calls if you talk to him around that way.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. Kane Vincent-Young would be another one. I could just appeal to his good nature.
Nice.
I think he'd be too nice. He'd be the one talking me out of it, I think, to start with. That's the route I'd go down.
Hutchie, any thoughts?
All I've got written down, and I did write something down. I don't want to fight anybody. I've not got it. I just haven't got it in me. So probably Marcus Harness.
Well, he just tie you up in knots.
He'll be too responsible, because if he's as hard as you're telling me he is with his jiu-jitsu, that should come with a level of responsibility that means he doesn't unleash that power on somebody as pathetic as me, and he'll just let me go. And I just don't want it. And he's got lovely eyes, so
And you could tell him that.
I'll just tell him that. Charm him.
He could compliment you on your calves. It's the gentle art Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is called. So I think you'd probably have a chance there. Alternatively, he could just put you in a choke and gently put you to sleep.
That'd be over quickly then, wouldn't it?
Would be quick.
How are these phone box fights kind of adjudicated? How do you win one? Is it like pure knockout? Can you use the phone?
I'm not familiar with the rule set. All I've seen are clips of people knocking shite out of each other in a phone box. So yeah, I'm not sure the phone is actually still in there. So I'm not sure if that's the weapon. It's very much a kind of 2 a.m. scrap outside Weatherspoons in a phone box. I'm not sure technique is particularly important, or indeed any kind of fighting skill whatsoever.
Apart from the ultimate champion of this, if the Ipswich squad kind of were in some sort of knockout, literally competition, Sam Morsey would take on all comers. No problem.
Yeah, I'd still say Harness would win, to be honest, because he's so close to you already. If he can get his hands on you, boys, I can't explain to you as a blue belt. I mean, blue belt is actually the second lowest belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but there's only like 5, and it takes 2-3 years maybe to get a blue belt. If he can get his hands on you, you're in so much trouble as a member of the public who knows nothing about how to grapple. He would absolutely run through the rest of the town team in this competition like a dose of salts. No problem at all. No problem at all. It wouldn't even be close. Anyway, we'll move on, shall we, boys?
Because before
we do move on, there's a phone box relatively near Portman Road, on the bridge at Stoke Bridge.
Yes.
If you wanted that one, it has recently had a new addition to the outside of it. Someone has just spray painted the word "bum" on it. That's the edgy side of Ipswich there.
Satire. I like that. Really biting satire from the graffiti artists of Ipswich. Right, friends, let's move on. There's 2 more questions I'm going to keep for our Plymouth chat, but there's now even more questions, Stu. We introduced a new format to the show a couple of weeks ago, a new concept, 10 questions with, kicked off by the boy Roscoe, who introduced it on Tractor Girls Talk. He quizzed Andy Warren, and we got to find out that Andy Warren's favourite fruit is a mango, and he's overcome shyness in his life. We learnt a lot about ourselves and each other. So now, Stu, I'm going to put my 10 questions to you, because you are obviously the next biggest dog, or indeed maybe the biggest dog. So
obsessed with ranking everyone. Who's your favourite? It just changes on a week-to-week basis. No one knows.
What have you done for me lately? That's exactly what I'd say. Right then, Stu, 10 questions and 10 questions only. Take as long or as short as you like. Andy, ask any supplementary questions you would like. A lot of this you'd probably already know. You know him very well. Stu, question 1. What are your best and worst qualities?
Can't I just have some easy ones about fruit?
There are some easy
We've gone-
ones.
we've gone
What do you like? What do you like better, having a bath or a shower?
Exactly. We've gone straight into the deep and meaningful. I feel like I'm in a job interview. My best qualities: I'm loyal,
yeah.
kind, empathetic,
You sound great.
sensitive, all that. Yeah, bit soft and soppy, really. Well, and then probably weaknesses would be all of those things that I've just said, because they can go against you as well sometimes. Yeah, all those things can kind of lead to self-doubt and resentment and horrible qualities as well if you let them take hold too much. But
Do you know?
that's
Do you
a
know what
deep
I love?
answer.
Do you know what I love when you ask someone their weaknesses, and the worst thing that someone can say is, if anything, I'm too much of a perfectionist.
Yeah.
It's like I don't really have any weaknesses. Being perfect is my weakness.
Baldness, could stick that in under weaknesses.
Is it a
It's
weakness?
positive in my book, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is a weakness at the moment, and our pool car is very good at reminding you of this. Our car, the Honda Jazz, is very unhappy with Stuart at the moment because he keeps changing lanes without indicating, and it shouts at you, doesn't it?
It does.
It
He's
shouts
getting-
at you.
Yeah, it goes. Beep, 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 beep. But
Mate.
Stu just tells it where to go, just like, oh, shut up, Jazz.
Well, when you're on the motorway at like 2 a.m. and there's not a car near you, you don't go indicate to move across to a lane, do you?
Well, that's what Jazzy wants you to do.
I would have said, Stu, if you're asking me, I would say your best quality is obviously the biceps, the guns, baby. And worst qualities, by the sound of it's your bladder, size of your bladder. Quite a limiting,
Terrible bladder.
quite a limiting factor.
Horrible bladder.
Horrible bladder. Right then, next question, Stu. What's the best advice you've ever had, and who gave it to you?
Still no fruit questions.
They're coming, don't you worry.
Best advice. I don't know who gave it to me, but it's something my wife and I remind each other all the time, is to kind of apportion appropriate weight to any feedback you get in life, both praise and criticism. Think about where it's coming from. How respected is that source? If it's someone that knows you really well, and take that criticism on board, and it's coming from a right place. If it's just external, if it's from Twitter, if it's someone that doesn't really know you and know who you are and what you do, then give it far less credence. Don't let it eat away at you. And same with praise as well. I'd rather get from one of your peers, from one of you guys, a little text or that was good, just a little nod. That means a lot more than some sort of gushing praise from someone that maybe doesn't know you as well. So yeah, that would be the advice.
That is good advice. You remember who gave that to you? Is that just something you picked up on?
I can't remember really. It's just something. Whenever either my wife or I have sort of moments, or somebody's in your head, or something's needling away at you, we're just a bit of perspective of where that's come from.
That's really good advice. I'm going to take that on board, Stu, and might even adapt it and use it in my life. Right then, Stu, big question. We've already talked about your bladder. Do you still like to wee sitting down?
Absolutely.
Is that that's the answer? Move on.
That's me time, baby. That's it's just I can block away wife, child, everything. I can go in there. I'm going to sit on that toilet till my bum gets numb. Take my phone in there, play some phone games, maybe a book.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
So, are you still wearing women's jeans? Was there was a time when you were wearing women's trousers, weren't you? Is that still going on?
I don't own any at the moment, but I have done at times in the past. Yeah.
Are you still rocking the Ronaldo pants as well?
Yeah, very much so. That's on doctor's orders. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Support the testes.
Support the boys.
Like a poor man's Freddie Ljungberg.
Right, Stu, next question. What's the most memorable beer you've ever drunk? I'm not talking about the beer itself, but perhaps the scenario, the reason it was memorable.
Probably for bad reasons would be the sort of the dirty mixed pint consumed on my stag do via a funnel. I don't know if you've ever consumed a liquid via a funnel before. It goes down fast.
Yeah.
I knew I was in trouble the minute that sort of hit my lips, and I was. So that would be one.
That's the most memorable drink you've ever had.
For bad reasons.
What about for good reasons?
for good reasons, like a victory pint or a
Exactly that. Yeah.
sentimental pint. I
Have
don't
you
know.
had a drink with anyone, particularly like a one-off drink with anyone? I had a pint with the Wealdstone Raider once. Anything on that?
Ah, yes, that's a good story.
Anything on that level? Have you?
Tell that story, Hutchie, while you're here, because people will be very interested in that. I remember this happened. It was to do with a FA Cup game, wasn't it?
Colchester played Wealdstone in the FA Cup, and I think I was going to Wembley to watch the NFL, and Wembley is near Wealdstone, so
yeah,
I got in touch. Who better to give us a guide to Colchester's upcoming FA Cup opponents than the Raider himself? And I went and met him at his local pub, bought him a Coors Light.
A Coors. It's not really a beer, is it?
I don't know. Is it?
Had him down as a Stella man, to be honest.
Absolutely.
No, he had a Coors and had a nice little chat. Lovely fella.
Did you say do the catchphrase immediately as you saw him?
Yeah, straight away.
I remember he did the catchphrase for Carl Marston, didn't he?
Yeah, he's told Carl, you got no fans. Carl didn't know who he was, did he?
Of course he didn't. No. We need to hook back up with him. Maybe we can get him involved in pushing folks towards voting for us in this upcoming awards. Go and see, have a pint with him.
The best beers, I can't think of a specific scenarios, but the best beers I would say on holiday, first night. This was pre kids. Wife's getting ready and out on the balcony.
Yeah,
you're done in 5 minutes. You're on holiday. Your whole holiday's ahead of you. You're there now. You've had a long journey. You have a nice cold pint on the balcony. That's a good one.
That's a great beer. That is a great beer. Right, and Stu, a dead serious question now. If you were on the boat in the dark night, would you have flipped the switch and blown up the convicts?
You're going to have to remind me of this. I love The Dark Knight. It's right up there in terms of top film. So it's a bit of a kind of a moral choice, isn't it? Right. So you can either save. Was the boat going to crash into the kind of
no? So you've got two boats side by side. One of them conveniently is carrying all convicts. And the other one is just good, honest civilians.
Yeah.
They both have a switch, and they're told that they've got to make their choice. They've got a certain time. If you press the switch, the other boat blows up. If you don't, who knows what happens? And of course, the spirit of humanity shines through. The lad Tiny off Friday, the huge guy, takes the switch off the jail guard who's about to press it and lobs it over the side, and no one dies, which obviously in real life is not what would happen. So, Stu, you're on that boat. I guess you'd be on the civilian boat, as you've yet to be sentenced for crimes.
Depends if a police officer had seen him changing lanes without indicating in the middle of the night.
So they had to blow themselves up, basically.
No, the opposite boat. You've got
right.
Have you seen this film, Stu? You
say it's been quite a few years. You've got
the detonator for the other boat.
Batman's he's up on some scaffolding up high or something, isn't he? Kind of watching this all play out. Is that?
I can't remember now where Batman is during this. It's one of Joe.
Do we need to simplify this?
Yeah.
Stu, me and you are in a room. Only one of us can get out. Would you stab me to death and get out of the room or not?
Yeah, so you could say.
I like the way he's thinking about it. Yeah,
I would. There's a decision to be made, mate. There's a decision. if it's you, if one of us has got to go,
it's going to be you.
You're not a convict, though. It's a little bit different. It's playing with the moral dilemma there, isn't it? Whether
would you stab a convict to death?
Why does that? Now I have to deploy sort of physical violence. Pressing a button's a little bit easier, isn't it? Just a flick of the switch.
Would you blow a convict up?
It's a simple question.
Bearing in mind, I've started by saying my best qualities were sort of kind, empathetic, etc. I don't know if I could do it. I think I'd probably logically talk myself into that being the right thing to do, but I don't know if I could. Don't know if I could actually do it.
I think the beauty of The Dark Knight is you weren't in the room with them. They were on another boat. You didn't know them as people. So maybe that would help you.
It was as simple as pressing a button, Stu. That's all it was.
Probably yes. Did you?
There we go. We got there in the end. Absolutely, I would. If it's you or me, it's going to be you.
Okay. Archie?
Yeah, probably in the end.
Good. Right.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend. Right, number 6. What's your? I think we might have already know the answer to this, having answered question number 3. What's your guiltiest guilty pleasure?
You know the answer.
Well, I
Massage
imagine.
chairs.
Well, and also
Service station massage chairs. Yeah. Specifically the end part. I am going to film you on one of those going to Plymouth at the weekend.
that'd be great. That's the content we want.
I don't know what guilty pleasures I've got. I have been a former smoker. Kicked that horrible habit many years ago, but still on a night out, you get that first taste of beer.
Still calls to you.
Yeah, I still will have a little cheeky roll up after I've had a first taste of beer.
That's all right. It's a guilty pleasure. You're allowed that.
Yeah.
7. For those who want to know about football things, who's your favourite player or manager that you've ever worked with?
Probably Mick McCarthy, just because of the period of time and who he is and how he kind of sharpened me up as a journalist. I think I've spoken about this on other things. I'd ultimately go for Mick for longevity and character and personality and everything that goes with him.
Do you ever still text him? I know you had a textual conversation with him after he left.
No, I've had the odd stab at trying to get him to do a kind of a reflective piece on his time at Ipswich, and the answer has always respectfully been no. But you never know. After he's been out of the game for a little while, that's definitely on my bucket list of interviews to do at some stage, having kind of lived through those 6 years, covering that time with me.
I think one of the finest moments on this podcast, the almost 5 years we've been doing it, is when Mick McCarthy burst into that courtroom. Remember? Made a statement. Anyway, go back and listen to that if you haven't. Number 8, 3 questions left, Stu. How would your wife describe you?
Annoying, probably. I did ask her this on the sofa last night when you sent these questions through. Yeah. She said it in slightly more colourful language. She'd probably describe me as sensitive. Someone that's just, and not in necessarily a good way. Someone who, an overthinker, probably. Yeah.
I reckon if I asked my wife this same question, and probably a rule for everyone, one of the first words that comes out of her mouth would be annoying. I'd say. I don't know if your wife would say that as well.
Yeah, I met my wife at 18, so we are a proper old married couple that bicker quite a lot, but in a good way. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
But, annoying, irritating.
You can't not be, can you? If you spend that much time with a person, both in terms of kind of years and on a daily / hourly basis, you can't not annoy each other a bit.
Yeah,
you're all lying to yourselves if that's not the case.
It's part of life, isn't it? Nothing wrong with that. Right then, 2 more, Stu. A chance to show off now. Who's the most famous name in your voluminous contacts?
Probably all Ipswich Town related, to be quite honest. I tried to find some non-Ipswich Town related ones. Mark Lawrenson, does that impress you?
Nice.
You happy with that? Yeah. John Inverdale.
Yeah. John Inverdale. Wow, he's still a thing.
Yeah. But the rest of them would probably be fairly Ipswich Town related. Mick McCarthy. Two former members of I'm a Celebrity in Kieran Dyer and Jimmy Bullard. I guess they would be kind of quite known sort of beyond Ipswich for probably more for reasons of the various things they've done on TV since football. Alan Brazil, well known, isn't he, on Talk Sport? People like that. Mings, Darren Bent, Darren Ambrose, all people that are quite
just reading them
well known through media.
Hutchie, have you still got Paolo Di Canio's number?
I've got an entry in my phone for Paolo Di Canio, but I'd be amazed if that's still his phone number.
Ring it now.
I mean, if we were on a radio
he's
show,
tempted.
that is exactly what we do.
It's tempting. Not now. Maybe we'll do that another time.
We should so do that. That could be a new thing. We could play phone book roulette.
I've got Joe Calzaghe's phone number.
Oh, yes. Now we're talking. Absolutely, yeah. Ring him now.
Do you know what? There's a story behind that.
I know.
Have I told it before? I'm not going to tell it again.
No, you haven't told it on here. You told it me when we were at the kit reveal.
Have I? Okay.
Yeah.
So when I worked in Swindon, we just went for a work night out at the local dog track, and I left my glasses at the local dog track, and my boss at the time just gave. Oh yeah, Joe works at the track. He's like the caretaker guy. I know him. Give him a call, and he'll pick him up for you and leave him in the office for the next time you're up there for the speedway, which I was all the time. But for a laugh, he gave me Joe Calzaghe's phone number instead of Joe, the cleaner from Swindon dog track. So I rang up Joe and was like, "Yeah, I've left my glasses at the track. Can you put them in the office?" And it was Joe Calzaghe.
Was he in on the joke?
No, no, he wasn't.
Okay.
And he was a bit bemused. This is Joe. Yeah, I said, "Oh, is that Joe?" He's like, "Yeah, this is Joe." And it's like, okay, yeah. Then I went into the story. I think you got the wrong Joe. This is Joe Calzaghe.
Wow.
So
we should actually try and recreate that. Do exactly the same joke. You ring him again and say that you've lost your glasses.
I'm going to struggle to fall for it again. I'll be honest. But...
No, you're in on it this time.
Oh,
the joke's on Calzaghe.
I've got George Grove's phone number as well if you want to do it to him for boxers.
Oh, fantastic. I like it.
And he's really good at accents, by the way. You got a little snippet of Welsh in there. He didn't commit to it, but quite often on our long journeys, I get him to do impressions.
Certain ones, yeah. I've got certain ones in my locker.
This is something we need to explore at another time because I've got one more question to ask Stuart Watson. Finally, Stu, last question. Tell us something that none of us, your immediate friend, work circle, know about you.
I feel like you know a lot about me. We've talked about, you know what underwear I'm wearing, for example. We've already discussed that today. That's raised its head.
So to speak.
Yeah, we've discussed our sort of male grooming habits. We've so many things. I don't think there's too many areas to uncover. Do you know about some of my early nicknames, some other nicknames? You know me as the Doctor, obviously.
Yeah. Watto. Yeah.
Other nicknames I've had in my life, and I'm not going to give you any explanation to these, have been Eagle Eye and Rodders / Rodney / Rod.
Because of some kind of similarity to...
Not telling you.
Interesting. Eagle Eye and Rodders.
So depending on different people that I've worked with, different social groups from time, I'll be referred to by those names.
Here endeth your 10 questions, Stu. Your grilling is over. I feel like we've learned quite a lot about you and probably me and a bit about Hutchie as well in those 10 questions. Right then, friends, there's one final question, of course, which we have to answer before we end this somewhat epic 1 hour, 12 minutes so far podcast. And that is what's going to happen at Plymouth on Sunday. By way of segueing into that, allow me to reintroduce the questions from Mailbag because there's one obvious question going to this game we have to tackle. Adam asks, is it time for Kyle Edwards to have a shot at right wing back in the first team? And in that respect, is Wes Burns' Welsh call-up well timed? So obviously going to Plymouth, that is going to be one of the big questions around this game. Who do you replace Wes Burns with on the right? Hutchie?
I've written 1,000 words about this morning.
You have, yeah.
Well, I didn't do it this morning. That would be mad, wouldn't it, if the things that went online at 6 a.m. had to be written immediately prior to that. Basically, I would love
Spoil
it
the
to
magic.
Is that what you do? Is that how you do it? You're up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
No, sorry, we can time bomb things.
Spoiled the illusion.
Sorry, I would love it to be Kyle Edwards' time. I really would, and I can make an argument for it. A lot of that is based around a bit of a shift to a back four rather than actual wing backs. They're becoming more like wingers at times. The prospect of Burns not being here for an entire month potentially makes me really want Kyle Edwards to be the man that's up to speed to play that role. I want him to be. I like his qualities when he's at his best. We haven't seen him at his consistent best for a while. I'd love it to be him, but I think the natural, sensible and likely choice is Kane. Vincent Young.
Watto, agree. Sorry, Eagle Eye.
Rodgers.
The person I think will probably play there is Caden Jackson, because I think
Do you?
I think he'll want to find a way to keep him in the game after his performance at Hillsborough last weekend. You can bring Harness back in for a bit of control and just move Jackson across to the right side, as he did Shrews. What game was that? Burton, where he played there. Players will tell. I can't remember who said it recently. It might have been Sam Morsey, where he said that he thought Kane Vincent Young was their best performer in pre-season. I think we're only getting little glimpses of Kane, but he's looking to me like he's the Kane Vincent Young of old when he first signed, and he's got a bit of that mojo back. He's bringing out a few of the step overs. He's got that little dynamic turn of pace about him as well. So he'd be the one I want to see, but I think it will be Jackson.
Shall I tell you, I put a little poll at the bottom of the story that I did. And once this advert has finished playing on it, I'll tell you what the result. Basically, the result was overwhelmingly Kane Vincent Young being the pick. It was like 60% Vincent Young, 20-odd% Edwards, and then Jackson was actually the third in line for that. The last time I looked at it,
that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think we might we'd know a lot about the system from if it's more of the tighter central defensive three, and Plymouth play a central defensive three. So I don't know if there's thoughts of matching up there. Then Vincent Young, I'd say, is the obvious choice to play a proper wing back role, but that role has become more and more winger. So I don't know. I think it's also a good testament to the strength of the town squad, isn't it? That we've got 3 players here. We're talking about being potentially able to do that role, which other squads aren't going to have, are they?
I think Plymouth's. We talked about bad timing losing Burgess for Sheffield Wednesday against a physical side that were a threat from set pieces, and so it proved with obviously them getting their crucial goal back from a set piece. This isn't great timing to lose Burns, who I don't think has been anywhere near top form at all. I think there would be a conversation had he not been away with Wales about him, whether he's clinging on to his place as it is. But that said, I'd say one of Plymouth's strong areas is their left side, and Barley Mumba, who's on loan from Norwich, looks a real handful. He's won them a couple of penalties already this season. Looks a very skillful, direct player. So they're going to have to bear that in mind when deciding who plays there on the right.
And one other question, which is related to Plymouth, which I know we spoke a little bit about Freddie Ladapo, but clearly in terms of team selection, there's going to be a conversation there. Dan said, why are the people of Suffolk obsessed with the striker scoring goals when football's developed and goals come from all over the pitch? With the team top of the league, unbeaten, and a positive goal difference of 12, why is there all this Freddie Ladapo chat? Any of you have any thoughts on that? Is there a conversation which sees Freddie not start at Plymouth, do you think?
I didn't think there was a conversation over Freddie not starting at Sheffield Wednesday, and he didn't.
Yeah,
so I don't know. I mean, I would still start him. I think he, in games where Ipswich want to dominate the ball, I think he's their best bet to help them do that. But you do need your striker to score goals. It's all fair. Like we talked about last season. Joe Piggott was contributing to the team, but he didn't look a goal threat to me. For Ollie Hawkins, we talked about him contributing to the team, but he didn't look a goal threat. Ladapo does look a goal threat. He's just not scoring. And while Ipswich are scoring goals all over the pitch, I don't think it is a major concern because he is really contributing. But you do need your striker to score goals. That they don't have to score 30, but I think they do need somebody to get 12, 15. And I think that's probably why the conversation is there.
I don't think there's a football club in the land that if their new striker that was kind of meant to be the sort of the prime striker had gone get their first 9 games in the league without scoring, that would every fan base up and down the land would be having a conversation about that. And I don't think it's been overblown. We live in the world of social media where these things kind of get amplified a little bit. But I'd like him. I know you've mentioned there a couple of players there with Pigott and who else? Probably Drynan was in that conversation at one point where, do you know what? He's doing a lot for the team, but he wasn't goals. Ladapo is a far higher grade of player than all of those people that you've mentioned in terms of what he's contributing. Mark's,
Absolutely, 100%. 100%.
Speak for yourself. Right then, friends. What else is to talk about around Plymouth? The rest of the team. So you're having KVY on the right, Hutchie. You're having Caden Jackson on the right, Stewie. Anything else you're going to do with the team, boys? Is it as you were, as expected?
As expected for me would be Harness coming back in.
Yeah,
he came off the bench at Sheffield Wednesday, didn't he? I'm losing track of all these guys. Yeah, he came off the bench, so I'd have him back in a three with Chaplin and Ladapo. Like Stu said earlier, it feels like that's the strongest three, and I would go for it. Other than that, I think it's starting to it picks itself.
Are we saying it's a back four now?
It feels like that to me. It's always flexible, and I think Donatian gives you that flexibility, what he's able to do. But if we had to put a number on it, more often than not, it feels like more of a 4 to me.
Stewie?
I think it's worth pointing out that Plymouth are without a couple of players as well. We've talked about some, Burns not being available for Ipswich, and obviously now a couple of injuries as well with Burgess and someone else. Kamara's obviously not fit to play against them just yet. But they're without Finn Azaz, who's made a really good start for them on loan from Aston Villa. Ipswich fans will remember him standing out for Newport early last season. He's they also play sort of this double pivot, 2 number 10s role. He's been one of them and scoring goals. He's away with Ireland under 21s for the first time, so he's a big miss. Galloway suspended. He got sent off in their last game. So. Just like Sheffield Wednesday, really. I'm just looking forward to seeing how two of the better teams in the division go head to head. Can Ipswich kind of stop this narrative about can't quite beat the biggest teams? I know they've beaten some good teams, Plymouth, already this season. They've beaten Peterborough, haven't they? They've beaten Bolton. They came back from 2-0 down to beat Derby. I've watched their highlights, and some of their they've lived on the edge big time. They've ridden their luck in some of those games. They look quite chaotic defensively for me. So I think there's some goals there for Ipswich at the weekend. I think this could be quite an entertaining match.
Which leads us perfectly on, obviously, to predictions and £1 million picks. Side note on Derby, looks like Paul Warren's going to go into Derby, boys. Interesting, very interesting. Hutchie, £1 million picks. How do we do on Saturday? Oh, of course. I say it was bad news they conceded a late equaliser at Sheffield Wednesday, but it wasn't, was it, Hutchie? Because it made you major bank.
I hadn't realised quite how generous you were with your odds, because that Michael Smith goal won me £1.3 million.
Oh my goodness! Why are we still doing this show, boys? Why aren't we in Vegas?
I've bought all the rights to this now, mate, and I'm going to use that money to set up some 5th tier European competition for Tim Pot Cup winners.
Exactly.
For 4 or more goals in the game at 25-1. How much did I put on? I think I put 30 grand on 50 grand on that, which won 1.3 million. So
wow,
the pot's now a little over 2.6 million.
So what are you going to do this weekend? Now you've got money to play, even more money to play with.
Well, obviously Donatian to have a whiff of a goal at 25 grand. Morsey to score at 25 grand. I'll need your odds for those, please. Sweet bookmaker. 100-1 on each of them?
No. 33-1, Genoy, whiff. The
33 for a whiff.
That's generous. 33-1 just for a whiff.
Has he ever had a whiff?
He had a definite whiff at Morecambe. He should have scored at Morecambe. It can happen.
Did we decide the panel was called in the end?
There was also There was the Pong panel,
That's it.
the Stench Society, the Contentious Whiff. So that's 33-1. Morsey, I'm going to give you 9-1. It was at 8-1. I've moved him out to 9-1 because he's not scored for a couple now.
Okay, 25 grand on each of those then.
Mhm.
50 grand on Leif Davis to either score or have an assist. A direct assist. I'm not mucking about with pre-assists here.
Score or have an assist. I'll give you 15-1 on that.
Okay, 50k on that. And then, as Stuart Watson can attest, I've been very, very confident about Ipswich winning this game at Plymouth, haven't I?
Mhm.
Yes.
£500,000 on Ipswich to beat Plymouth.
Wow. What would the odds be on that? They're probably would they be the favourites given everything that's...
Do you want me to look up some actual odds for
What?
you?
Give me the actual odds, because I feel like this is somewhere that I could really.
You're a bookies on the back foot here, Mark. You'd be thinking.
I think evens at best, probably.
So with the first one that comes up is Sky Bet and Town are even money. Sorry, no, they're not. 10 to 11.
Slightly less than it. I'll give you evens.
Okay.
So you put 500 grand on that.
Yep.
So you get a chance to double your money.
He's gone full Michael Chopra.
What then, friends, is the score going to be? Hutchie, you obviously think they're going to win. What's the score going to be?
2-1 to the Town.
2-1 Town. 2-1 to the Town, boy. Stewie?
I also have 2-1 written down.
To Town. I said 1-0. I think this is the last of my games that I attempted to predict with laughable success. So I said 1-0. Hopefully we're all right. Hutchie, before we go to, I've got to play What is the Shirt Over Your Shoulder game. I'm getting people contacting me saying, why have you stopped playing that shirt over your shoulder?
I picked it for you.
Black and grey check. Got a number on the front, is that?
No, you'll like this. I picked this one
Is
for
that
you.
Peroni as a sponsor?
Is it Peroni? Oh, it is Peroni.
The gold. So it's made by Zeus, and it almost looks like a Tottenham badge, like a cockerel standing on a ball in gold, but it's not, obviously.
Peroni 3.5 on the front. Kind of, it's all black. It's got gold badge, black and white or grey check on the top half, all black sleeves. Can you turn it around? Is the answer on the back?
No, unless you
1908. Oh yes, that's changed everything.
It's Italian. If you wanted to,
my initial thought was Lazio. No,
nope.
I have no idea. Is it
Bari?
Okay,
that's a nice shirt though. Actually, how do you feel about that one? Is that another new one?
Yeah, relatively. Yeah, I like this one a lot. It's
sponsor lets it down, doesn't it?
Yeah, they all let them down. That's basically. There's very few that don't. It's this those Germany shirts that I told you how much I love with the kind of the stuff at the top, the kind of checkerboard at the top. Bari had that same template back in red and white back in the early 90s, and this is kind of an homage to that a little bit.
I like the gold. The gold trim's nice. The Arsenal kit in midweek had the gold numbers and letters on the back. I like that.
Superb.
There you go. Bari.
Excellent. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground in today's pod. It's been coming up to a football match long, but then that is because we've been away for more than a week, friends. So we had to give you a bumper full value show today, which of course is totally free of charge to you. So enjoy. I hope you have enjoyed. Friends, anything else to mention before we take our leave? I do want to see video footage of one or both of you on a massage chair on your epic journey to Plymouth this weekend, please.
Do they have them in train stations? We're going on the train, so
maybe
can I put the pound on expenses?
Of course you can, my friend. Absolutely. You could buy yourself several massage chairs with that money now. Anything else to mention, boys?
No other business.
No other business. Right, as I stretch after this 90-minute long episode, friends, all that leaves me to remind you then is to support our sponsor, Manscaped. Use the code KOA at manscaped.com for 20% off and free delivery. I noticed, Stu, they've just launched a new product, which already they have the intimate trimmer. Now, if you're feeling extra brave in your Ronaldo pants, there's an actual shaver, as in a wet shave for your nethers. If you want to be even smoother and less hair down there, Manscaped have launched a wet shaver for your nadgers, which I can only imagine is excellent. Hutch, you feel like you want to get involved?
I was, yeah. Is that specifically for the sack?
Well, I think that's the way they're selling it.
That-
It's called the crop shaver. So I guess it is. I guess less chance of nicking yourself, because I mean, pre-Manscaped, obviously that was a serious issue, boys, wasn't it? When you were trimming yourself up down there, very thin skin, aggressive blades on lesser trimmers than you'd get from Manscaped. Ended up looking often like a murder scene down there. But yeah, so if you're feeling brave, it could be used to shave all other parts and features, I'd imagine. But I think it is specifically tailored, and I don't know the specifics of it, the design, at shaving your chaps. So that you can get 20% off and free delivery. Use the code KOA at manscaped.com.
Yeah, if you want to be the first one to try it, you guys crack on. Go out and buy one. Let us know.
When I first saw it, I thought it was one of those head shaver things. So I was going to genuinely suggest it to Stewie. Maybe you should still get it, Stu, and basically the same, isn't it? Similar sort of shape.
Yeah,
the
all
same.
spherical, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's all spherical. And also, please follow us across social media, Kings of Anglia, on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes if you haven't already, because that helps other people find us. Friends, if you're in any doubt as to why you should vote for us in the Football Content Awards Best EFL Podcast, just reflect on this last 90 minutes. We've talked about who should replace Wes Burns on the right side, and we've also discovered if Stuart Watson would stab a convict. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game at Plymouth, and we'll be back next week to speak to you all over again.